Hi everybody, welcome to Grassroots Footy, brought to us by West End. Big weekend of footy. No, it wasn't, because none of the local teams played. Of course, we had State up against Country. Unfortunately, Country got the win on that one by 25 points, but a big weekend of footy coming up as I welcome one of the coaches who'll be involved in one of the big rivalries this weekend as PAC take on St Peter's, Rocky Butterworth. The coach, PAC, sitting nicely with 3 wins and no losses. Rocky, how are you?
Very well, thanks, Phil. Good to be here.
Yes, mate. Now, don't be nervous. I know you're a little bit nervous, TV, cameras and all that. But now, the PAC boys gone up, but managed 3 wins to start the season. You surprised by that?
Yeah, I am. The honesty is, mate, when I checked the fixtures at the start of the season, going from Div 3 to Div 2, our first game was against Walkerville, who I think lost by a point in the first semi last year against the side that went on to win the flag. And they'd recruited okay, and we played them at their ground, so I thought we could just about pencil that in as a loss. Our second game was Adelaide Uni at home, but everyone knows Adelaide Uni's been an A1 side for 100 years. We've made our way up from Div 4, 3, 2, so to play Adelaide Uni in round 2, that was at best a 50-50. And then to travel down to Port Districts, who have come down from Div 1, play them on their ground with their recruits that they've it's common knowledge, they've got some pretty handy recruits down there. To win that game by 75 points was a pretty good effort. So to be 3-0, I could have expected it easily to be the other way around at Love 3.
All right, you've got the momentum, but then the Easter break comes. Do you feel that the break was good for you? You might have lost a little bit through that time.
You know, I'm saying this about some of the AFL sides as well that welcome a break after 2 or 3 games. You think, how can that be? But you do. You look forward to that break because we've actually played 3 trials, we've trained over the summer, and it comes at a really good time, this break so quickly. What you've got to try and keep a handle on is to make sure they still train during that time, so you have the Saturday off. But we still got to have both nights last week. We trained Tuesday, Wednesday last week rather than the Thursday of the first day of the holiday. So we've got our 2 nights in, and we'll do the same this week. We'll train tonight and tomorrow night to make sure that we haven't missed any training sessions, just had that good break of the game away.
All right, sometimes the boys come back and they're fresh mentally, not so much physically, because they've got into a few of the West Ends over the long weekend. So your group, normally get a feel for your group. How do you think your group's going to turn up?
I think we'll be no different to the other club. I think they'll have had 300 beers on the weekend and a dozen hot cross buns, and we've got to get that out of their system and get their footy heads back on, and to play St Peter's this week is a fantastic way for us to say, training tonight, rightio, we know the job at hand this week. There's lots of things resting on it. One of them is the rivalry of Saints versus PAC, and tonight that'll be our 5-minute focus, then get stuck into training.
All right, you're 2 years away from being 100 years in the Amateur Footy League, Prince Alfred, and of course St Peter's 101 years away, so the rivalry is rock solid. We're talking 90 plus years coming at you. Now St Peter's, so far this season, they've won 2 and lost 1, so their form's not too bad. To get over the top of them, what do you got to shut down?
They've got some really good recruits back out of their league environment. Trevor Hill's their coach now, so he's dragged a few from his association with Nord. We've done the same. We've got a lot of kids out at league clubs now that kind of disrupts your preparation, because you don't know whether you've got them from one week to the next until Wednesday night when their selection is, and we get them out to training on a Thursday night. But the simple focus for us, mate, it's great to have this. Well, it's 120 years of rivalry. If you go back to the school days of the intercollegiate, that's been going for over 120 years. Then to bring it into the amateur league environment, you know, it's another 90 years there. So sure, you have that, but mate, the reality is, if we win, we're 4-0 after a month, and they're 2-2, so we've got a 2-game break on one of our rivals straight away. So to me, that's my focus as coach, is to make these guys understand that 4-0 is a whole lot better than 3-1. And 3-1 for St Peter's as well. All
right, coaches talk about, we don't want to put too much into this game, so we're talking about a power Crows type game here. You know, is it better to have the players fired up? Is it better to have them at the right level? Too many eggs in the basket? Or do you like for the players to go, yeah, this is a big rivalry, this is a game, almost finals like that, we can test ourselves early in the season?
Yeah, for me as coach, I think that's natural for them. It's no different to any rivalry of Port Crows or your basketball rivalries that you've had with Melbourne sides in particular. So for us, my job as coach is to make sure we win the game of footy and to get their heads around that aspect of it rather than just this rivalry. The rivalry takes care of itself. They're all ready to play St Peter's as they were to play Adelaide Uni 2 weeks ago. The rivalry breeds itself. It's me as coach to make sure they're aware of the importance of the win, not just beating a particular side, but the reason why, and that is to finish our first month.
Can you sense it at training? Can you sense that the boys talk about it a little bit more? You know, it is St Peter's, it is a rivalry, we want to take care of it. Does that come out of the training?
Yeah, this is the only time it gets AFL type standard, because they know a lot of the players at Adelaide Uni, they know a lot of the players at St Peter's, so they can tell you where they play and what their strengths are and weaknesses, whereas against most of the other sides you don't know until you play them. Then you've got to lock away the memories of who played well and all that sort of stuff. But the players actually get involved in the games against Uni and St Peter's because they have the intimacy of knowing some of the players in those clubs. So yeah, they talk about it.
All right, sometimes in these games, the rivalry games, a big name gets pulled out. Mark Rasciuto, for example, last year was involved with you guys, the Roo. You're not going to suddenly bring one out of the cupboard. Not going to see Tony Modra turn up. Or,
no.
You're just going to go with everything in place?
Go with what we've got and whatever we get back from our league connections. We have got Timmy Weatherald signed this year, and he'll play a few games, but one of them won't be this week. We'll go with what's got us the 3 wins so far this year, mate. And
they talk about that in the SAAFL, the players that drop down from the AFL then go back up to play in the ASL. The SAAFL, for you, players coming in and out, you touched on it there with Timmy, is it unsettling, or the players see that and it's not too bad?
No, as long as you set it in place at the start of the season to make your whole squad aware that we've got 5 or 6 young kids that are trying to play league footy, and if they don't make reserves, then they're coming back to play with us. As long as everyone's on the same page from the start of pre-season and when we sign these guys to a contract, then everyone's happy, and we embrace them when they come back, because they are PAC kids and we want to make sure that they play the best footy they can.
All right, all the coaches talk about it. The key to winning a game is to get hands on the footy first. St Peter's midfield, how does that match up with the PAC?
Oh, they're pretty strong in the midfield, and one of the good things about getting Tim Weatherald out with us this year, I've now got the luxury, if you like, of giving him the midfield squad for a session every Thursday night, and our centre clearances this year have been a whole lot better than they were last year. So they may have more class than us around the middle, but I think that we've got a good structure in the middle that will give us first chance.
All right, still early days, 3 games in. We're talking about a game that's pretty important because of the tradition that's been built up over 90 plus years. Other teams that already this year that you see as perhaps being around the mark that could be in the way of PAC sitting on top of the ladder?
Look, because we've gone up the division, there's sides like Modbury that I have no idea about until we actually play them and take their best player lists each week out of the paper and keep those and monitor pre-game, etc. But Adelaide Uni were touted as being a final side, and they will be. Ross Trevor, with Drew Lister out there kicking goals every week, they're going to be a good side. And St Ignatius, I think they come up with us from Div 3, obviously, but they've recruited really well, and they're a big, powerful side with a lot of older heads with league experience, so they'll be around the mark as well. It's a really good competition.
Yeah, Drew Lister's one of my favourite, of course, his preparation, 6 pints and a pizza before the big game on Saturday. Easter's just been here, so if we say he's had a 5-day break, that's 5 pizzas and 30 beers. He'll have a 100-goal weekend.
He might have a 10-goaler in him, I reckon. So.
All right, a lot of teams, different structures. We've seen a lot of the defensive pressure in the forward line. There's a lot of talk about extended pressure. Some, Collingwood, for example, around the boundary line, some through the middle. PAC, what's the way they like to attack it?
And this is interesting because players these days watch a lot of AFL footy and they want to style their game on that. Well, we can't, obviously, because we're not professionals. We don't have the skill level and the fitness to play the same game plans. But if you just pick bits and pieces out of what you see and go off and watch a bit of AFL training or league training, you can put yourself together a game plan if you want to. And I think we've got a really good game plan at PAC, and it suits the body size of our blokes. We're not a big, solid side, but we can run and we're pretty skillful. So my game plan is about us getting our hands on the footy and not giving it back too quickly. All
right, St Peter's, their game plan similar? Are we going to see an up and down style of game? Or
we played them in a trial last year when they were in Div 2 and we were in Div 3, and it was a good contest, really fast. They like going for a mark.
Yep.
The times I've seen them over the last few years, their players do like having a catch in the air, and they're pretty good at it. So my focus this week will be to certainly stop the aerial strength because I've got no doubt once he hits the deck, we're pretty handy. So I'll back my blokes in that
All right,
situation.
we won't give too much away because it is a big game. You touched on it before about how the players watch the AFL. Now, obviously, I know you do, Rock. You watch it a fair bit. I see Wayne Wiedemann regularly out at training Crows, and I see him at Power gaining ideas. His team hasn't got off to a bad start either.
They've done really well. I was surprised with that because they weren't head and shoulders above sides in Div 2, which generally you need to be competitive to go up to Div 1. But they've done really well. I think they've played a couple of sides that might be in the bottom of the ladder, but that doesn't matter. He's done a really good job with them, and he's recruited as much as he can do. He does a good job out there, no question about that. All
right, recruiting for PAC. Did you have some targets that you got to start this season that helped you, or not?
Yeah, we need a couple of bigger bodies, and we had two brothers, Ryan and Jared Byrne, who are both PAC boys but have been journeymen, I guess, over the last 4 years and played in various leagues. We got them to come back home this year, which has been a bonus for us. It's just given me that big body up forward and a big body in the middle of the ground, which we really missed in last year's grand final. So they've been pretty handy recruits for us.
All right, the pace of the game, the jump from Divvy 3, you talked about you've gone Divvy 4, Divvy 3, Divvy 2. Divvy 3 to Divvy 2, the pace of the game goes up how many notches?
It's huge, and I'm sure the step from Div 2 to Div 1's the same, but I've found in the 3 games this year, not only have you enjoyed coaching against the opposition, the standard of footy's been terrific. And yeah, it goes as well as the fitness will allow them to go for 4 quarters. So it slows down during the game at some stage and the skill level will drop away, but generally it's pretty handy.
All right, the big game, where's it at? Rock, St Peters?
No, we play at home.
At home?
The last time we played, it's been 5 years since we played a game against each other for points. They've been hovering around Div 2, Div 3, and we had a bit of a tumble for a while. But the last time they played, they had 1,500 to 2,000 at Nord Oval under lights. We were expecting, a good crowd. We'd like to think that we can get maybe 1,000 people to a rivalry game like Spock and PAC at our ground.
All right, it is going to be a big game. If you've got nothing on, you want to see a rivalry, you won't see any better than this in the amateur footy. We'll take a break, hear from our sponsors. Back with more in a moment.